Hi there, Dennis K0TX here, and today we're gonna build a Digitenna. So for that you'll need your 3D printed parts. There are 4 of them. We have outside half of the spool, inside half of the spool, we have handle, and we have outer casing. We also need the BNC connector. We need a ferrite toroid, 100 picofarad capacitor, magnet wire. We have 2.5 millimeter screws with a flathead, and we have S carabiners, and we have a wire. So these are our pieces, the ingredients for the build. So we'll start with the transformer, Endfed transformer. So for that I'm using 24 gauge magnet wire. I start with unspooling about 65 centimeters of wire, which amounts to 2 feet and 2 inches. I'm going to cut that off. So then we need to make a fold in the wire, which I usually do around 9 centimeters, so that would be 3.5 inches. So I measured that, and then I'm gonna fold it on itself like so. Okay, so then we need to twist this part. I'm going to use just a regular hand drill, and I'm gonna attach about 1/3 of an inch into the chuck, and I'm gonna hold the other end with the flat part of the pliers, not to scrape any insulation off of the wire. And then I add tension and I start twisting. This is about the type of density we want, and there's a little piece of the wire that's gonna remain not twisted, and a little ear on the other side. So now that we have the wire, we can start winding the transformer. So we'll start with this end against the core, and we're gonna go in this direction. It may be different from other tutorials in terms of the direction of winding, but I chose this direction because of the way transformer is connected to BNC connector. So we're gonna make 3 tight wounds with the twisted part of the wire, and I'm gonna use the same flat part of the pliers to tighten the winding. So now the twisted part goes all the way around to the opening. So from then on we're gonna continue with the single wire and make 9 full rotations in that direction. I'm gonna get that end out of the way. So let's straighten these guys. So that was 1. Every time wire goes through the middle is 1 wound. So important not to create any loops. So that's why I'm holding it with the finger before tightening, to let it slide and not make any kinks or loops or nuts. So that's 2. Again, I'm holding it like this to make sure it lays flat, and I guide it around to make it as tight as possible. It's important to keep it tight but not to break it. The tighter the wounds are, the more efficient it is going to be. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have 7, need to go 2 more. Okay, so that's 9 full wounds around the center. Now next one, we'll go to the other side and start in the other direction. Now before we do that, we want to about 1/2 inch of insulation off of the wire, antenna wire. That's what centimeter and a change, and we want to put it onto the magnet wire and slide it in the middle. So the reason for that is that there's going to be a center pin of the BNC connector kind of close to that wire there, so to make it less likely to make contact even though the wire is insulated with enamel, it's better to have additional so it wouldn't hurt. So we have now 9 full rounds around the core. So this will be the 10th one, and then after that we do 11 more after flipping the direction like so. So that's 1, 2, Okay, make sure not to make them overlap with another wound in the transformer. I'm gonna straighten this guys a little bit. Okay, so I have all 11 on this side. So now it goes around, and after exiting we make a little bit of a loop here. So that's where antenna wire is going to connect. Okay, so we can also tighten double wire and also cut excess and the center wire we can point towards the middle like that. That's where it's going to make contact with the center pin of the BNC connector. So this transformer is pretty much done. So the thing that we'll do next, we're going to crank up the temperature on the soldering iron, and we're going to burn off some of that enamel on the wire. You're gonna sense a distinct smell when the enamel burns off, so you'll know when that happened. And obviously the wire is gonna get all wetted with this with the solder. Okay, so that's that one. We don't want to make too much of a thermal contact with the core itself, but a short exposure is okay. So this one is finished. So next part will be to connect the ground side of the BNC connector. We don't want to mount it on a 3D printed part because this piece is going to get hot and we don't want anything melted. So the problem is, rather challenge, is that there's going to be 3 connections and we only have 2 hands. So the way I handle it, first I shape this piece like so. Then I attach one of the leads of the capacitor. These don't have polarity, so you can pick any, but I attach it in a way so it sort of holds itself there, so at least I'm not gonna have to hold the capacitor, and I can focus on the transformer and the ring. So basically I compress the lead around the ear there, and it stays in place without me having to hold it. So now I can use something like this alligator clip to hold it. So next I apply solder and I put a bit more than normally would be a good call, because next goes the transformer. So the transformer twisted wire needs to be on top of that contact that we made just now. So I melt the solder bubble and I ease in the transformer's twisted wire into that solder joint. So you can see it. So that one is in place, and there will be no more soldering with that ring. So we can now mount PNC connector into the inner half of the spool. So the connector is keyed, so we can put it into the keyed hole, and next we open up our transformer plus the ring assembly, get the wire out of there, and we can now slide the ring. Next goes the washer. And next goes the nut, and we can hand tighten it. Okay, so now we need to strategically orient the transformer so the place where the antenna wire is connected is between the screws, so we can rotate until it's tight, and also adjust orientation. Of the transformer. So next we need to connect that single wire on the inside of the transformer to the center pin of the BNC connector, and also the capacitor goes there as well. So at this point the capacitor is held by another lead, so it's not going to jump around. We just kind of shape the contact, the lead, so it's right against the center pin. And we also pull the single wire from the transformer to there as well. So both of them are now against that opening. So what we want to do next is quickly feed a lot of solder and a lot of rosin into that solder joint. We don't want to keep it hot for too long because that will make melt an insulating plastic in the BNC connector, so we want to be pretty quick with that. So, and we want to make nice solder bubble there, like so. So both transformer and the capacitor are connected now. You can see that that crossover wire is pretty close to that center pin, so we can decide on which side it's going to be on. But with additional sleeve from the antenna wire, it's not going to cause a problem. So now I have sample quantity of antenna wire. Normally there's about 10 meters of it, so I'm gonna expose a little stub of the conductor there. I'm gonna apply solder to it, and now I'm gonna solder that to that little loop that we made earlier. Okay, so next we're gonna feed that wire through the hole in the 3D printed assembly, or rather the outside half of the spool, from the inside out, and also while we're at it, we're gonna feed it through the ear, through the opening in the outside assembly. That's not an issue with the length of wire I'm dealing with, but when there's a long wire, it's better to do that right away instead of running the whole length of wire through the openings later. So now we're gonna close the center, aligning the holes with the columns behind them, and it sometimes takes like a light or flashlight to see for the final assembly. So next we're gonna put the outside case or stutter, and then while holding it tight so it's still aligned, we're gonna put the handle on. So now there are 3 holes and for screws and 8 holes in the sides. Only one direction has those aligned, so for aesthetic reasons I put the handle up through that same hole. So next thing, we apply some pressure and put the screws in. I'm not certain I'm hitting the hole there, so I might need to realign. Okay, once one is in, it's easier to then do the next one, and the third one will be automatically aligned. Okay, once all are aligned, I'm gonna tighten them all. So these are M2.5 by 14. So if you need to source them for your build, that's the screw size we're talking about. So now this one is assembled. So on the other end, I usually do loop for the S carabiner. Too short of the end, but that's okay. Happy mistakes, as Bob Ross would say. Okay, so now this is all good. So other than the antenna being ridiculously short, well, it's 70 centimeter antenna bent. Okay, this one is pretty much assembled. All right, so if you have any questions about the build or parts or anything, feel free to make a post in the Digitex community board, and I'll be happy to help. Have a good one. 73.